There's only one slight problem, folks. I can't see anybody. My glasses are somewhere. I had them just a few minutes ago. Now they're gone. What? Oh, thanks. Oh, thanks, Mary Emily. Mary Emily to the rescue. She cured my blindness, didn't she, huh? Now I can see. There's people here. I thought there was somebody out there. I could hear them. Now I can see. Well, our gospel this morning is about seeing and believing. We remember the story. Jesus comes on a man who was born blind, and he cures him. But the man's neighbors and his friends, they were uncertain and unsure. Some thought that, well, maybe this isn't the man that we know. When the man tells them how he was cured, they take the man to the Pharisees. And the Pharisees ask him what happened. And when he tells them how Jesus had cured him, they said, well, this man couldn't be from God. He cured on the Sabbath. And then the Pharisees asked the man's parents. And notice how they dodged the question, didn't they, huh? Finally back to the man. And when they asked him who he thought Jesus was, he said, the man is a prophet. And with that, they threw him out of the synagogue. And only later on, Jesus meets the man again. And he invites him to put his faith in Jesus. And the man says, beautiful act of faith, doesn't he? A beautiful act of faith. I do believe. And he worships Christ. Now, it's really a story of how people reacted to Jesus curing the blind man. Some, the Pharisees, chose to close their eyes. They were blind to see who Jesus was because they closed their minds. Others, like the man's parents, well, they chose not even to ask. But the man chose to put his faith in Christ. It's really a story that each one of us has to ask ourselves now, where do I fit in? What is my choice? And we each have to ask that question and answer it for ourselves. Now, we shouldn't feel too bad if sometimes we're a bit blind. We just have our opinions about things, and that's okay. Remember, even the disciples of Christ thought, like most people at that time, that if someone was sick or handicapped, couldn't see, whatever it was because of sin. Either the person had sinned or the person's parents. And Jesus quite simply says, no, sin only comes when you choose to be blind. So now let's take a look again at just how people reacted to Jesus. What does it tell us? Well, first of all, back to the man's parents. Well, when the Pharisees start to question them, the Pharisees start to cross-examine them, trying to poke a hole in Jesus' curing in the story. They become afraid. And that's why they say, well, look at, ask him. He's of age. He can tell you. Don't ask us. Don't ask us, ask him. Now, we shouldn't be too tough on a man's parents. Because sometimes we do the same thing, don't we, Sometimes we just simply choose not to get involved, especially if there's a price to be paid for it. Then there were the Pharisees. Now, for the Pharisees, faith, religion was just a fixed set of facts, of truths. And that was it. This is what God has said, and it's set. There's no room for any new ideas. No room, they close their eyes to any new thing that God might be trying to tell them. And because of that closed mind, they missed the messenger of God who was standing right there before them. Missed it. Now, not many of us here would like to think of ourselves as like the Pharisees, but, well, sometimes we are. Sometimes we just plain close our minds, close our eyes to what God might be trying to tell us, to the lessons that God is giving us. And remember, when we close our minds, close our eyes, well, it's sometimes easier. If we do that, there's no risk of pain or making a mistake. It's sort of our comfort zone, isn't it, huh? Close your eyes. No pain, no loss, no mistakes. The strange part of the story is that the man born blind is the only one who can see Jesus and who he was. All the rest, some chose not to start, some chose to move away from Christ. But the blind man, well, his journey is a lot like ours. His journey to Christ. Remember, it took some time. And gradually, in the end, he was able to say, yes, I worship you. I do believe. And for us too, it's a lot like our story. It takes us a lifetime. Faith takes us a lifetime to really put our faith in God, really put our faith in Christ. And we have to have our eyes wide open every day to see what God's telling us, to see the lessons that God puts before us every day. We don't want to miss those, so we have to be open to them. Maybe an example will help. Last Sunday's Post-Standard had a very nice feature article, front page, on Rob Long. Remember Rob Long, an excellent football player at Syracuse University. Great punter, right? Great punter. He could kick that ball down the field and it'd still be going. Well, at the end of the season, last fall, the regular season, Rob was diagnosed with a cancerous brain tumor. And ever since then, he's been receiving the extensive treatment that's necessary for this kind of thing. But Rob was open to the lessons that might teach him. He's quoted as saying, anytime this sort of thing happens to somebody, we always ask why. Well, I'm open to what it might be teaching me. And I honestly believe that this might be happening to me so that I can help others who are going through the same thing. Now, Rob certainly didn't plan on this brain tumor. And he certainly didn't want it. But he is open to the lesson it's teaching him. And that's what we're talking about. That's what it means to have our eyes open to God. Now, everybody here this morning, ready or not, has to ask ourselves, which way am I going? Which way am I going on my journey to Christ? Remember the story. The Pharisees made their decision. They decided to turn away from Christ. Man's parents and relatives, friends, they chose sometimes not to start the journey at all. But the blind man, he chose to move toward Christ, and finally was able to say, I do believe. Now it's back to us. That's why it's our turn. Where are we going on our journey to Christ? We all have our blind spots, let's face it. We have our blind spots in life, blind spots to what God might be telling us. When we do this, we close our minds. So we're about halfway through Lent, okay? So let's make it our resolve right now, but we still have a little time. Take a look at those blind spots of ours. Where are my blind spots? Where do I miss what God is telling me? And then comes the hard part. We need to ask God's help. Ask God's help, very simple, to open our eyes.